Wordballoon is brought to you by the League of Wordballoon Listeners. There we go. Hi, everybody. And are we on? Can you hear me? You can hear me? Excellent. Oh, I've muted you. Let me unmute you. There we go. Gabe Hardman, John Suntress here for another To the Outer Limits. Today, it's episode 3, The Architects of Fear. And this is one that we've been waiting to talk about, Gabe.
Yeah, this is one of the best episodes of the show. It's and this is clearly where it really hits, and like is running on all cylinders because it's and doing something really different than another show would do. And it's a smart setup that then but that is dealt with in a very like emotional, personal sort of way, and which is like what makes the episode so effective to me.
Agreed. And also it's really, I love these episodes that are really a mix of horror and science fiction.
Yeah.
And it's and yet manages to stay real and really be of the moment, at the height of the Cold War, these kinds of fears and everything. So thank
Am
you,
I still muted?
No, you're fine now.
Okay.
No, we're fine. Of course,
Okay.
I can hear you.
All right.
So that was early. Isham Zubi, Architects of Fear. Where's your best name for a PR firm? Very good.
But it's a great name for this episode. It totally is. It plays on the kind of Cold War stuff, but like I think in so many so many things that's like that can become kind of like a big shallow artifice, and there's not a lot of character stuff that's driving it. And it's all character stuff that's driving it. The thing that makes it interesting is that that he's volunteering for this, that he's put in a direct conflict with, basically he's it's like he's going off to war or something and knows he's never going to come back, but he can't tell his wife, and the way that those personal conflicts develop over the course of it is what keeps it alive. You can think of a lot of other things that use that sort of big Cold War framing, even the previous episode, that don't come through in the personal way like that. So you don't really care the way that you care about this, this episode. And it's also, this is also shot by Conrad Hall. It has a very expressive quality to it. And this is one of those situations where at the time people were saying, well, you can't shoot it like that. Everything on TV has to be bright. You have to see what's going on. And there are like, shots where everything falls into shadow in this. And you have to pay attention to the visuals and they set a mood and a tone. Everything's working together. Obviously there's a contrivance at the center of this. And there are some contrived things about the ending, but I think that all of that, I think, is kind of overwhelmed by how interesting and original a take it is, and the fact that it's not in any way jingoistic. It's not about there are no villains in it, right? It's a a situation
Well,
where these guys decide to scare everybody into not being in conflict with, nations not being in conflict with each other anymore, and it's hubris, and they fail, and the personal consequences for Robert Culp's character and his wife are enormous, and and it is explicitly the idea that they are. They're all scientists and stuff, right? Or at least, it's a science oriented thing, but it's also not even anti-science. It's not something that where, they tampered in God's domain or something, it's
right.
it's about those personal choices in the way that they're trying to do some, big thing that totally goes wrong.
And also the way that it's shot, like you said, beyond just the noir aspects of it, but also the alien in the box and the clicking and all that is terrific.
Yeah.
Or even when Culp is in mid transformation and you've got him, behind the screen.
Yes.
And you just see the shapes, and it's appropriately creepy, and you can only imagine how creepy it probably was back in '64 when they were doing it and everything.
Yeah, and it's funny, the thing with the the alien in the box or whatever, it's like it's weirdly never totally explicit what that is. I assume that that's a monkey or something that they did this like the trial run for what they're going to do to
right.
Like they experimented on a monkey, they made him into a Thetan, and and then they're like, okay, well that worked. So
now it's time for you, pal.
With Culp.
Yeah. And echoes of the space program, which obviously again they touch on sending him into space as they did. But yeah, literally like kind of like space chimps before sending man into space and everything. No, it's true. It's just and really, God, Culp is so good in this.
He is. He's really good.
And that mid transformation period when the stuff they're grafting in him and injecting him with really starts to take effect, and he really gets feral.
Yeah,
and crazy.
Yeah. He flips out and starts talking about Caliban and classical literature and stuff while jumping on a counter and throwing shit at people.
Yeah.
And then, but also it's still personal. The guy, what's his name? Leonard Stone. Is that it?
Stone. I was looking up the cast right now, and he's amazing at this.
Like they're like best friends. There's this serious personal connection between them. And when he lashes out physically at him, when Culp lashes out at him, that's really impactful. I found,
it hurts him.
The way that they're able to frame all those things to not, it's never about, even though it has this big lofty idea, it's never about, let's appreciate how big this idea is and how smart we are. It's about the drama.
It's about the people. Yeah, it's about the people. And it's again, like, I'm really glad like we're talking about Leonard Stone, because Leonard Stone is one of those faces that if you love reruns, you see him. And I mean, I lean on comedy. He's in a couple of really great Barney Millers, for example. Yeah. No, he's just a great consummate character actor. And then another guy, and I didn't have time to cross-reference, and right now I'm actually on an Outer Limits fan page of a season guide. TheInnerMind.com is where I'm at. And I want, because another guy I recognized from The Manchurian Candidate.
Oh, yes. Right.
And I can't remember which actor that is.
Yes.
Looking at the list. Let's see. Is that Martin Wolfson, Dr. Herschel, or? I
mean, that could be. It's one of the doctors, obviously.
Right, or Douglas, or it's Douglas Henderson. It's one of them.
Right.
And God, he, again, another guy that isn't given a lot to do, but is incredibly powerful for his moments. No, it's very human, and that's really cool.
A guy, another small, a tiny part that talk about not much to do, but and it really doesn't necessarily have an impact on it. But every time I see this, I'm like, oh, hey, it's him. Is at the end, one of the hunters is this guy, Billy Green Bush, this actor who in 5 Easy Pieces, he's the friend who works with Jack Nicholson out in the oil field, who gets arrested and hauled off. And that's like, I mean, Five Easy Pieces maybe like it vies for one of my favorite movies ever. So it's like it's one of those I love seeing. I love early 60s TV because everybody in it, like everybody of a certain age will be in all those 70s movies in 10 years,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, man. No, that's what's amazing about it. Again, they just, it's cast so well, it's shot so well. Everything about it is just really unbelievable at how great it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think that okay. And so and it also has like one of the most, ambitious creature designs in this. And it's like, and it's goofy, like it's goofy looking, but it's also kind of effective, and
sure.
And like, I think that it was so ambitious and crazy in the way that they presented it. I mean, the guy who, I think that it was designed by the director, this Byron Haskin, but there's a guy who so like the company was called Project Unlimited, where they built these things. And this guy who sculpted the head is called Hua Chang, and he was somebody who, I think he wasn't in the union or something, and so he never got credit on any of these. But he was, but I know that he worked on Star Trek, and he worked on a lot of the original series Star Trek, creature effects type stuff, and he was one of these guys that had a hand in stuff behind the scenes, and you could kind of see the quality of his work in a bunch of different things without having any idea who he was.
By the way, Douglas Henderson is the actor that was also in Manchurian Candidate, and yeah, Billy Greenbush. I see him right there. I'm on IMDb now,
right,
and everything. So
like the guy who directed this, Byron Haskin, is kind of interesting. He was he was an old guy when he was making this, he had been around since like the Silence. Awesome. And he had been an assistant cameraman, like working on a bunch of stuff in the early days. Like he was he was like an art student and then enlisted in the military for World War I. Like he was.
That's fantastic.
Like this guy's been around forever, right? And he's been a cartoonist and like came to Hollywood in like 1919 and started directing in 27.
That's awesome.
But then kind of stepped back and ended up doing a lot more like special effects camera work.
Okay.
And like did that for like Captain Blood and lots of classic movies.
Very cool.
And then when he started directing again, he did stuff. He did this Burt Lancaster movie, I Walk Alone, which is interesting, kind of noir movie, but a really great movie he did. It's called Too Late for Tears from 1949 with Elizabeth Scott. And it's like very recently, the Film Noir Foundation did a restoration of this movie that was in the public domain, or it's still in the public domain. But the prints that there's like a print of it on Amazon Prime that you can't even watch. You can't see anything.
Hilarious! It's all washed out.
Well, no, it's all just dark and
Oh, okay.
Like they literally they get a bag full of money and they look down at it and you can't even see the money. You don't even know what's happening in the thing. But they did a great restoration of this. I saw it at the Egyptian a couple of years ago during the Noir City, and
sure.
And that's a great movie and totally worth seeking out. He's more famous for directing War of the Worlds, the 1953.
Oh, the Gene Barry War of the Worlds.
Yeah, exactly. And so like,
I didn't realize. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's it's kind of it's a classic movie, but it's also kind of an interesting movie to look at against this episode because it's so much more about the kind of big picture idea of a kind of metaphor for the Cold War and a metaphor for everybody coming together against some alien invasion, right?
Yeah.
But it's so much more kind of conservative and jingoistic in the tone that it takes, and which doesn't come from the novel. The novel is not like that at all. The novel's fantastic, but I
always forget that it was based on a novel.
It's an H.G. Wells book. Yeah.
Oh, you mean War of the Worlds? I thought you were talking about Architects of Fear.
No. Architects of Fear is an original story.
Because I want to talk about Meyer Dolinsky. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I mean,
right,
War of the
Worlds
is like it comes off a lot more like in the end, it's like everybody gets together and they pray for the aliens to die or something, and then and in the end, it's like, oh yeah, the germs killed him, but God in His wisdom put him there, but just in a way that that made it, because everything about the Cold War had hinged so much on godless communists and and so versus the God-fearing United States, and so I mean it plays so hard into that, and it always surprises me. I rewatched it for this just out of interest.
Oh, you rewatched War of the Worlds for this?
Yeah, I did. And so I mean I think that like that, taking that kind of big picture view of it though versus this very small scale view, character driven view in Architects of Fear, there's really, they're opposites in so many ways, I mean, War of the Worlds is a really well made movie, but, and I think he did a good job on it. But I think that Architects of Fear is actually a much more interesting story.
Completely agree. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And again, showing what you can do on a shoestring like that is pretty amazing. Wait, I had a comment from Hisham. I thought the creature design was good, but I really like to see what can be done with today's modern practical effects. And honestly, they didn't remake Architects of Fear on the 90s Outer Limits, but certainly the makeup and prosthetics and effects obviously improved with the 90s. And it was, it's as I say, I mean, honestly, it's one of the better reboots. It really is one of the better reboots.
One of the funny things to me about about this design, the prosthetic thing, is that it's like everything else in the episode is shot with kind of backlit, kind of mysterious, and then the specific shots of the creature towards the end are totally frontlit. And it doesn't feel like Conrad Hall shot that. It feels like some Splinter unit shot that because
could be
because like that's exactly what will eat your day is trying to shoot effects stuff, right? Because it is just complicated and it takes forever to get it done. And I would not doubt that was stuff that somebody else shot those pieces of it, that are independent of the other stuff in the scene separately. And I don't think they're as effective. I think that if they had, if they had shot it the way that they shot everything else, where it was kind of backlit and kind of and more mysterious, it would have been more effective.
As we'll see when they do the Martin Landau episode that's coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know when it is in the season, but yeah.
Although I think that plays more, that can just play better because Martin Landau's inside that thing, right? I mean, Martin Landau is an actor inside it who is able to project through it. This is a stunt guy.
Right.
Janos Prohaska is the name of the guy in the suit. And, he can do stuff with movement, but he can't do anything with expression because it's a head that's enormous.
It's a paper-mache head.
Puppet eyes and shit,
Yeah. Absolutely. That's so funny. All right. So Meyer Dolinsky, television vet before and after, 39 credits as a writer from, I'm looking all the way down here. He did science fiction theater. He did 2 episodes of that.
Right.
He did one of my favorite clunky early sci-fi shows, Men into Space.
I've never seen Men into Space.
Men into Space is awesome. It's one of those Ziv, like Highway Patrol shows that was syndicated, but it was essentially astronaut stories right at the beginning of the Mercury program. I mean, it literally here, I'm going to look again at the season. Yeah. 1959 and 1960.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Sci-Fi Channel used to run Men into Space, and there's a couple stray episodes on YouTube you can find.
Well, I'll have to check that out.
And they're just fun from a kitsch standpoint because it's Mercury era astronauts and stuff. But then also he did He did a Star Trek. He did
Plato's Stepchildren, right? The one with isn't that one with the Kirk Uhura kiss that more or less happens? Yeah.
Yes, and Michael Dunn, the great little person actor who was on Wild Wild West. I think he also did a Wild Wild West. I want to make sure. He did 12 O'Clock High. He did Wagon Train. A couple sitcoms like The Farmer's Daughter. He did Dr. Kildare. Please Don't Eat the Daisies. 2 episodes of The Invaders.
Right.
And let's see, Mission Impossible, 1 episode. Then came Bronson. How about that?
Yeah. Hey, I just watched an episode of Stony Burke with Michael Parks in it.
Outstanding. Speaking of them, Bronson, absolutely. That's so funny, man. You see how Hillary jumped for joy when you promoted that you had the Stony Burke?
He and I are actually doing a Stony Burke podcast. Sorry, I didn't tell you about that.
If only that were true. I'd subscribe in a heartbeat. That would be fantastic. You're killing me. Let's see. Well into the 70s, he did Cannon, Marcus Welby, Harry O, David Jansen.
Harry O. Yeah, he's a solid TV writer guy. Like I don't think he has any credits for features or anything.
No, just nothing but series television. So that's cool, and it's a great script. It's a tight, it's a good story. It's good.
I think that. I know that Stefano rewrote it. But I don't know how dramatic the rewrite was, except that I know that he adjusted the ending because the ending of the original version kind of had them. It was more of a kind of sci-fi. Lady in peril thing where they flood
shoot him down or whatever
the lab with gas to kill him to do whatever, right? And I think Stefano added the hunters so that it, like him getting shot by them, it has more, it just takes away that kind of, monster movie thing about him having to exterminate him at the end, and makes it more personal where that he can make the little sign against evil thing to the wife, and she can understand that's actually Robert Culp inside there.
Geraldine Brooks, of course, is the wife, and the level of, and again, kind of atypical for its time. It would happen occasionally, but the anger and the hate coming from the woman, and not just being this little flower. Delicate little thing.
She's a strong character, and and like the way that the way that they're able to set up the idea that maybe she could conceivably have gotten pregnant and then but not actually paying it off until after he's started this whole process, and bringing back the from here to maternity logo, just to say that it was great storytelling. That's great storytelling.
And I loved also early on, maybe right after he got the injection, Culp, and you see him in bed and you hear the creature chattering or whatever.
Yeah.
And all they did was play with one little light stroke over his cheekbone.
Yeah.
And it made it look like either something was already happening to him.
Right.
It kind of was like his face was like morphing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just such a clever, quiet effect.
Yeah.
And isn't that fantastic that you could do that with, you're in the business. I don't know what
it's like literally everything I love is being able to just it's because it's all fake, right? Movies are fake, right? And so and you have to create all this stuff. And so being able to express something just through suggesting it, not, just that little suggestion, I think it's just one of my favorite things, suggesting something through just the juxtaposition of a cut or through a little lighting effect or whatever. That's the magic of movies.
Agreed. There's that scene of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde where I know they did some sort of filter that didn't show the makeup until the filter was applied, or they took the filter off, and it made the transformation.
Yeah. Wait, which Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
The original one.
The 30s one or the 40s one?
The 30s one.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and now and it's not Claude Rains, it's
no, it's Frederick March.
Frederick March, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've seen them kind of, I wasn't paying attention when I initially saw that, but I'm sure on Turner or somewhere they really went over that scene and showed you how they did it.
Yeah,
but that's the kind of thing, again, with the right
although,
lighting.
suggestion wise, that's not as good as the thing in the 40s movie where
Spencer Tracy one.
The Spencer Tracy one, where you're just on his feet and his feet are walking away and you see him slow down and turn around and you just know that he's changed without showing anything.
Yep.
Like, that's the kind of magical movie stuff that I love. That's the kind of storytelling stuff that I love, that where you just, where the audience is meeting you halfway. You have to be there and engaged to understand what's going on.
Yep. No, that's a good tangent. I like that. Well, back to that. No, see, every now and then it's not me that tangents. It's Gabe.
Look,
but I'm teasing you.
Did I bring up the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? I did not. I just I just validated it by doubling down.
That's fair. That's very fair. No, again, top rated cast in terms of a lot of just good faces. You don't need to know the names, but that's, I think, really, again, a good hallmark. But really, Culp, the first of 3 amazing performances on Outer Limits. And I really love the fact that he really embraced science fiction.
Yeah.
And I mean, really every decade of his career doing a little something, something, we won't talk about another tangent, but Robert Culp related, that pilot for the supernatural investigator that Gene Roddenberry made, Spectre, with him and Gig Young and Roddy McDowell.
Okay.
Is like
I've never seen this.
Man,
I know of it, but I've never seen it.
I think it's still on YouTube. I think it's one of those orphan movies. I believe Warner Media maybe put out a print on demand DVD as they do. But yeah, it was early 70s. One of Gig Young's last roles after They Shoot Horses, Don't They?
Right.
He is clearly in the throes of like the end of his life, being alcoholism and everything.
Right.
And
he was fired from Blazing Saddles, so that
fired because he was having a DT attack and literally, I guess, foaming at the mouth.
Yeah, that's a legitimate reason to fire someone.
Yeah, and Mel Brooks said, "Wow, that's acting. That's really great. Look at him. It almost looks like he's going through. Get the medic."
Yeah.
But it's sad because, but it's a great movie, and it's Culp leaning more into the supernatural. But it's basically a Holmes Watson pastiche,
right?
And they're demon hunters, and it's really, again, it's just I love that about Culp, and also compared to Trackdown, his Western that was done by Peckinpah.
Yeah,
I want to see timeline wise if this Outer Limits was before or after Trackdown.
After that, I think that was like 58 or so.
I'm about to find out as I'm scrolling down. I'm still in there we go. Well, there he is in Rawhide. So was Trackdown before Rawhide? Let's see. You Are There. He was on You Are There. That's hilarious. Alfred Hitchcock presents in 57. Robert Montgomery presents in 57. The Steel Hour, Now Is Tomorrow. Here's Trackdown, 57 to 59.
Well, there you go. Yeah. 58. So it's pretty
yeah. Oh, no. It was right.
So that was before this. So I guess, then he obviously had a series of like smaller parts before I Spy rolled around. But, and he is really great. And I think he's underrated in a lot of ways. I mean, I think everybody who's, my age, I'm 46, so like knows him from Greatest American Hero,
and Raymond.
And what?
Everybody loves Raymond. He's Ray Romano's. He and Catherine Hellman play Ray Romano's in-laws.
Okay,
and he's very funny in it.
I don't actually have reference points after like 1983
when it comes to television. Exactly, you check out after that.
But like I first knew him from Greatest American Hero.
Well, I mean, I was an I Spy rerun watcher because I was too little. I mean, it was on when I was alive, but I was too little.
Sure.
And I Spy is one of the better 60s secret agent shows, obviously tainted now because of Mr. Cosby, you see. Yeah. But that said, no, Culp was amazing. Then, writes that amazing Bob Carroll, Ted and Alice.
Yeah, actually.
Groundbreaking movie.
Yeah. And it's an interesting movie. I saw that pretty recently, and it holds up it's certainly a time capsule.
100%. Absolutely.
I haven't been to a lot of encounter groups, but but
You're killing me.
But
Absolutely.
but like as a time capsule, it's very effective.
As you know, and likely as Karina knows, he was a big Playboy Mansion hangout guy.
Yeah.
And my radio partner, Mike North, did a series of episodes, two days at the mansion. And it's funny, also interviewed Landau, but interviewed Culp and Landau. And he didn't, he's not a big sci-fi guy, so unfortunately he didn't bring up the Outer Limits stuff. He did bring up Bob Carroll and Ted and Alice.
Yeah.
And it was great because obviously then Culp knew that beyond the obvious, oh, you do know my work. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
And
really, I asked Karina about this. If you don't know beyond just listening to the Outer Limits podcast, my wife and frequent co-writer Karina Becco used to work at the Playboy Mansion. And so I asked her, "Oh, do you remember Culp being around?" And she was like, "Well, I remember him. I remember him coming in and hanging out with Hefner. He was one of the waxworks, and,
James Caan
and this guy Ray Anthony.
Sure, Ray Anthony was married to Mamie Van Doren.
Yeah, and they called him All the Way Ray.
Hilarious.
Like the most ridiculously antiquated, kind of risque. Nickname.
Yeah, old boy club. Yeah, old boy club kind of nickname. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Landau, Caan, Culp, All the Way Ray. That's hilarious. That's fantastic. See, yeah, Karina's got to write her memoir.
Yeah,
that's.
Yeah, I mean, and I do think he's an underrated actor, though. Culp.
Completely. And a decent television writer as well as film writer. He wrote several episodes of I Spy,
right?
And yeah, I mean, he I think we might have talked about him last week a
little bit, but they did definitely. I know Byron Haskin, the director, was just could not he said they got along, but he also said that he
difficult,
a constant hassle because he would constantly be coming up with ideas, right? Like ideas for shots, ideas for new ways to enter the scene and everything. And, while, that's great, obviously it's great to be engaged. It's also like this tiny show with no budget that has to get through the day. They have to make their day.
6 days. Yeah, we got 6 days to shoot this thing. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, you can't change things at the last minute. You're just not going to make the day. You're not going to get all of your shots in a day.
No, agreed. Yeah, I mean, no, and you're right. And I know, it's kind of notorious of, driving producers and directors crazy. I don't know about him and Peckinpah. And I'm very curious because Trackdown was Peckinpah's show.
Right. And, I wonder about that. I mean, Peckinpah was such an easy-going guy. I would think.
Well, that's what I mean. And I've only heard Culp just, speak reverently about Peckinpah.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean, but that's early days for Peckinpah as well. I mean,
true. But that's why he didn't work out in television. He was too much of a do-it-himself kind of guy and didn't,
Yeah, well, same thing with Robert Altman. I mean, Robert Altman, directed. Here we're tangenting, but Robert Altman, he was a TV director. He directed
Combat,
the Whirlybirds, and Combat, right? Combat was one of the places where he really came into his own. And some of those episodes of Combat are amazing. You can hear about that on my Combat podcast that I'm going to do.
Man, you're cheating on me all over the place. It's amazing.
He got fired off of it because he just wouldn't do what they wanted him to do, and he was fucking Robert Altman, and then he became that because he was so difficult.
It's so honestly, all of these guys, including War of the Worlds guy.
Byron Haskin.
Yeah. No, it is fascinating seeing them also do, film work and television work. And then the opposite version of that is guys like Altman and Richard Donner that started in series television and then graduated to films. John Frankenheimer.
Yeah.
People like that. No, it is Lumet, Sidney Lumet also. Yeah. I again, that's why this period fascinates me. And the same goes with actors. It's actors on the way up, and it's actors on the way out.
Yeah.
And and it's again, it's kind of an interesting cross section because of the era. It is only 40 years, 30 years after the end of silence.
Yeah.
So I mean, so a lot of those vets are still around.
Right. And a lot of those people are getting, job, the older people are also getting jobs in TV, like you're saying. I mean, behind the scenes, even.
Right.
Like Byron Haskin, but
exactly.
Or like the Carl Freund who shot Dracula and directed The Mummy and the Universal stuff. He was the director of photography on I Love Lucy. I mean, like all those kind of there's so much of that kind of crossover.
Yes.
One of the things actually about that where Culp was a hassle but turned into a cool thing was that one short clip where the wife tries to come in and get in the door and see what's going on in there, and they won't let her in. But we go inside and see that Culp is in a the real transitional stage where he's got a big giant prosthetic thing on his face, but he's not yet the full Dayton guy. I keep calling him Dayton, but I can't remember if that's the correct thing or not.
I forget what the alien was.
I think that's just Scientology, but but like the one where he has the kind of muzzle type thing with some tubes coming off of it was apparently just Culp having this idea and talking and going to lunch with I think his name's Fred Phillips, the makeup guy, the on-set makeup guy, and then we got to have something where you see it's partly me and partly the creature, and then they went off and they started doing it, and Haskin is just like, what the fuck is this? Like, this isn't a good idea, and I don't have time for it, but they did it, and then it's like one of the more like iconic moments of this thing,
Agreed. So, Fred Phillips, Star Trek makeup man as well.
Yes. Yep. There's a lot of crossover in the behind the scenes stuff with.
Well, that's why it's fun to read the filmographies of a lot of the behind the scenes people, and you suddenly realize that these are technicians that were used in other, projects. Don Nunley, a prop master that I interviewed on Wordballoon. We talked. He had done a coffee table book of Steve McQueen's Le Mans, and also had done all these different TV shows, and I can't remember what TV shows, but he did a World War II movie called The Bridge at Remageddon or whatever, and it was David Wolper production,
right.
Robert Vaughn and George Siegel, and I know we're tangenting, but it is interesting. Like, and again, the connection.
I bet that coffee table book is more exciting than the Le Mans movie.
Well, that's the thing, and also, honestly, it is one of my favorite Wordballoon interviews I did because of how fate, like how all the bad luck and a lot of it caused by McQueen himself.
Yeah,
John Sturges was the original director and fired off the movie because McQueen was producing it.
Right.
And Sturges is like, I knew you when. I'm not about to take direction from you now.
Yeah.
Walks off and they get kind of a BS guy to finish the movie. But McQueen's cheating on his wife during the movie and gets into an accident with the co-star because he's cheating with her.
Right.
And just weird, and it was sad because he had just gotten his own production company at that point. And it was really supposed to be a big moment for him.
Yeah.
Again, big tangent.
May not have been temperamentally suited to it. Yeah, I had reason to revisit that, a couple years ago because of working on Ford versus Ferrari. So.
Which I love. Do you realize that, honestly, that movie inspired my love and current obsession buying Hot Wheels size cars?
Oh, yeah.
And truly, and I'm looking right now at a Shelby that's slightly bigger than Hot Wheels size. But yeah, man, that movie just immediately made me want to do all that. Oh, please, absolutely, show me something.
Here, this is the one that I used as a model for drawing all the storyboards.
That's fantastic, man. Mine is smaller. Mine's slightly the ratio is 45-1, and the Hot Wheel ratio is 64 or 63-1.
Yeah.
But I'm and I'm so glad because I think the fad was really big from early 2000s to about 2012, where the a lot of companies like Johnny Lightning, would make Hot Wheels size.
Yeah.
I have a Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am and police car. I got the Interceptor.
I had those when I was 5.
Well, I know, but again, I was a Corgi kid.
Okay.
And Dad would come back from golf trips and bring a corgi to me.
All right.
So I had all those cars and everything. And I don't know, man, that was my one retro during the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah.
I miss those things.
Right. Those cars, the real cars are tiny, right? Like when you stand next to those
the Shelbys and stuff.
Yeah, it's like they're these little tiny cars. It seems like they should be these massive things because of the engine and everything, but they're not really. I guess just to be light. I don't know. I don't really know that much about it beyond what
and I'm not really a car person per se, but I have to say that movie really ignited, and I bought a Steve McQueen Bullitt Mustang.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was in a production meeting. We couldn't be farther off the outer limits at the moment.
And I understand that.
But I was in a production meeting, for Ford Ferrari, and Jim Mangold, the director, is not a big car guy either. It's just, he was interested in the story and telling the story of these guys, right? Which is what makes it a good movie. But the
it's so well shot though.
But we were, the car guy was like, all right, well, we gotta, to Jim, we gotta get you out there and in the car and out on the track and blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, I don't think so.
That's hilarious.
And I was like, I'll do it. Just take me, I would love it. Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. I would love it.
That's amazing.
No, I'd love it.
This is half Adventures in Hollywood with Gabe Hardman. You realize?
Yeah. I didn't get to do it. I was just like the guy at the table going, please take me with.
That's outstanding. That's fantastic.
Anyways. So
I guess a closer comparison should be your work on Edge of Tomorrow and this architect.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, that does have a little bit of the feel of this. I don't have any cute stories about working on Edge of Tomorrow. They're certainly not with that director, but All
right, fair enough. Well, back to Architects of Fear. We haven't mentioned Watchmen's connection.
That's true. We need to talk about this. There's the whole thing about Len Wein, was the editor of the book, and he quit over Alan Moore not changing the squid ending. Right.
Like a Cthulhu, basically.
Yeah. But the funny thing about that to me is, well, I don't think that's, the whole thing you always hear is, it's just stolen from an episode of The Outer Limits. It's hacky, whatever, and I don't know how much sense that makes in a way, because I don't think that it's necessarily a problem for Watchmen. Right. I don't think Watchmen was about no,
it's a MacGuffin.
Yeah. A Watchmen isn't about the plot mechanics of that thing,
Right.
But I also think that in some ways the story that they're telling in this episode is a little bit more effective a way to do that, because they are the hubris and the failure involved and the tragedy of it. It doesn't succeed, right? I mean,
right.
Taking this idea and putting it, when you think about it from the direction of watching this episode, think about Watchmen from the direction of watching this episode, it kind of undermines some of what happens in Watchmen a little bit, or the way that it's used in Watchmen to me, because I don't know that it makes it seem like, well, of course that wouldn't be effective,
Right.
But, but I don't necessarily think it's used badly. And I think that using that kernel of an idea in there is not, I don't think that's something to quit the book over. Right. I mean, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, and again, I kind of understand, because Len would be that age where I think he'd be sensitive to that stuff, having been a kid who watched it when it was happening and everything.
Right.
So I get it.
I mean, I get the idea that it feels kind of plagiarist, but it also, but look, I mean, I don't want to be, some jerk here, but Alan Moore is, a pastiche artist,
Yes,
I mean, he's thought of as this, as like the great comic book writer. And I'm not saying he's not, but he's definitely a pastiche artist.
Well, a lot of his stuff is rooted in other existing works, whether it's
almost everything.
Pretty much.
I mean, and like, taking the Charlton characters and just recasting them, not because he even intended to, but because Dick Giordano didn't want to, burn out all those characters. They just
after he had just bought him, he didn't want him all in one shot to die and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, but it certainly is Watchmen is vastly more effective because he had to change that, and it's also, but he is taking pieces of things and putting them back together in a different way. I mean, that's basically what he does. I don't think that there's anything wrong with being a pastiche artist, but it's certainly, it's what he does,
Right. If you really examine the work, that is what he does. But
it's completely on the surface. He literally made his other most famous thing is just made up of other literary characters.
Absolutely. Yeah. But am I right? Because I didn't reread Watchmen, didn't think I needed to talk about Architects of Fear, but it is name checked in the issues, isn't it? I think
that's right. Yeah, I think that's right.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
To be honest, I reread 4 issues of Watchmen and didn't get
really.
It. Yeah, I was trying to be very like look, I try to put the work in here. I try to do a lot of research. I just didn't make it all the way to the end because I ran out of time, though.
Interesting. Oh, you mean to talk about it?
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to reread it this week to talk about this.
It's a shame because I wouldn't say that I was a good acquaintance of Len Wein's, but every time I saw him, he was always up to talk.
Yeah.
And friends of mine that are younger comic creators were good friends with him. And I bet if he were around it, I bet he'd be candid enough to admit.
Oh, I'm sure he'd have something
off and everything.
I didn't know him at all. I never met him, but
great guy. I mean, truly, and so approachable. And I won't go on another tangent, but really just a great guy that respected the generations that followed him as much as his peers and the people that preceded him. So no, he was really one of the best. He really was. So. But yeah, it's funny. Third episode, and they really kind of hit their stride with this one. Kind of set the tone moving forward. And comparing all 3 of the first episodes, it's kind of that. It's really a combination of what we got in the first 2.
Yeah, these are. It's really the elements coming together. The photography and the kind of filmic aspects of it. The solid script. I mean, I think that this was the 5th one produced. The 5th episode produced.
I didn't realize that.
I think it was actually produced before 100 Days of the Dragon. But this was, I mean, how Leslie Stevens created it. He was, and turned it over to Stefano to produce. But I think this was the first one where that aired, or maybe actually the first production order one, rather, where it was really Stefano, right? It wasn't Stevens kind of holding his hand.
Right.
The earlier episodes, decisions casting and writing decisions had already been made. This was more like,
Joe's baby.
Yeah, it was Stefano's thing, and he rewrote it, and he was there for the casting and for all of the elements of it. And I think that it kind of shows,
Very cool. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else really to say about it.
No, I think we did it. Yeah.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, otherwise I'd go into another Robert Culp tangent.
In a way, it's like the fact that this episode is really good. In a way, there's less to talk about, Right.
I mean, other than, if you haven't watched it, watch it. And, again, it is seriously, man. And then I'll even say this week's Star Trek Lower Decks, I enjoyed it.
Really?
Yes. And I really think.
What? How did we start talking about that?
Well, my point is, because I made this point last week, it's such a pleasure to watch a well-made show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not come in and go, well, I wish they had done this. I wish they had done that. And also us being older and having seen Outer Limits before, the one unfortunate thing is the bear, the monster, is very much of its time.
Oh yeah, it's goofy looking. But I'm always about trying to go, to look at things, through the lens of when they were made, but also just try to accept things on their own terms, And I mean, if it's, like, I don't really see the point in just watching something to make fun of it or to whatever, or to like take something apart that's working on so many other levels just because there's a goofy costume in it, you know?
I'm with you.
But, you know, I mean, I don't know how you could watch the original Star Trek if you weren't, you know, able to make those kind of leaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I absolutely think the costume is goofy looking, but it doesn't diminish the kind of emotional power at the end of the episode. And I think that's the most important thing.
I agree. No, well written, well acted, well shot. Yeah. So very cool. All right, on to episode 4 next week.
Yeah, it's the Man with the Power, I think.
Donald Pleasance.
Donald Pleasance, yeah.
And
great actor. Another great actor.
Oh, God, yes. And Ed Platt, I forget how much he's in it, but I happened to watch the first 5 minutes of it and was just busy, so the TV was still going, so went to the next episode. So, yeah, interesting cast. I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Ed Platt, always great. You know,
the Chief from Max.
Chief from Get Smart. He's in North by Northwest.
Yes. A good episode of Dick Van Dyke as well.
Wait, which one? Which Dick Van Dyke?
Where they play poker and they accidentally use Rob's magic mark cards deck.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
And subconsciously, Rob is beating them at poker because he's reading the cards.
The Van Dyke Show is on par with Outer Limits for, like, you know, great TV shows for me.
Orson Welles' favorite television show.
That's what Peter Bogdanovich always says.
And you understand? No, I mean, good Lord, no. It's a bullet. You know, like I always describe The Odd Couple as being bulletproof. And I think Dick Van Dyke was like that as well, just well written. And and
but
really
in black and white is better. Things in black and white are better. So The Outer Limits and Dick Van Dyke are, by definition, better than The Odd Couple, which is unfortunately in color.
This is true, and Twilight Zone as well. Absolutely, that's hilarious. Very good, man. All right, we now return your signal to your own control, but make sure you join us next week as Gabe and I will be discussing The Man with the Power, episode 4, To the Outer Limits. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and listening. Have a great night. And as I'm trying to move, it's wrong mouse. I've got too many computers open. Stay safe.